Welcome to the Healers Café, the #1 show for medical practitioners and holistic healers to have heart-to-heart conversations about their day-to-day lives while sharing their expertise for improving your health and wellness. So welcome to the Healers Café, and today I have with me Lisa Erickson. And she is an energy worker and meditation teacher specializing in women's energetics, sexual trauma healing, manifesting, and daily energy body care. She's also the author of Chakra Empowerment for Women and The Art and Science of Meditation, both published by, I'm not sure I've got that one right, Llewellyn
Yeah,
Worldwide.
Llewellyn, yes.
Yeah. And you're also a certified mindful meditation instructor. And anyway, it goes on and on. All kinds of credentials. But yeah, so I'm really excited to have you on the show and welcome, first of all. And anything you would want to add to this very quick summary I did of you?
No, that was great. And I'm just really happy to be here on Healers Cafe. And I love talking with fellow healers. So wonderful.
Okay. Well, I guess a couple things I'd love to explore with you. One is, how do you work with chakras
Mhm.
and healing, especially sexual healing, if that applies to that? And the other question, we can go in either order, is, as some people are, aware, we're a lot of technologies being unleashed that has been, I think it's 600 patents now that
Mhm.
have been sort of kept, from the general population. And one of them is med beds. And these med beds have the capacity of regenerating pretty well everything in your body. So it's quite a major thing. And amongst the med beds, amongst what it can do, is help um, restore or a person from sexual trauma.
Mhm.
So currently, it's being used for the young children and babies that have been affected by this ritual sexual abuse, um, and the soldiers that have gone in to save them,
Mhm.
basically. And this is, happening everywhere around the world. So I was curious, and I've never experienced one, and I don't think they're yet public to the extent of, we can go to one.
Right.
Um, but I'm just wondering, it's a machine, you lay in a machine, and
Mhm.
if you had arthritis and you come out and your joints are fine, I can see that. When it comes to trauma,
Mhm.
I have doubts, I have questions. I mean, I believe that it works,
Mhm.
but what is healing really all about in that context?
Yeah, yeah.
So I just thought I'd throw this big
Throw it
question
out there and we'll go. Yeah.
and see
Sounds-
where we go.
yeah. Well, and let me start with the way I work with the chakras because it is relevant. Yeah, I really view it as a technology. It actually is like our subtle body technology. Our energy body, our subtle body is this intermediary layer between our physical, our psyche, and our spirit. So when you're talking about trauma, it often impacts all of them. So when you're working at the energy level, you can access physical issues that may be stemming from trauma. You can access psychological patterns. Ultimately, I'll get there in a moment, but you can go these different directions, right? And when we look at energy traditions from all around the world throughout history, some were more energy medicine focused. So they were more focused on the chakras as they intersect with the physical body and systems. Some were more psychological, some were more spiritual. And so it's just this amazing range of things that you can work. So I work more contemplatively, like how do you, with your own attention and awareness, go into a chakra and learn how to clear it and strengthen it? How do you identify when you're experiencing a pattern which is destructive to you, which may be trauma based or based on something else, anxiety, depression, a physical issue? Learn how to go into that energy and work with the nearest chakra to potentially help you. So it's with your own mind. Of course, there's many other chakra healing techniques, that utilize crystals or utilize other sound healing that utilize physical vibration. So without being familiar with med beds, that to me is what they're working with. They're working with physical
Mhm.
vibration, I
Yeah,
assume.
yeah,
And
it
there's,
is energy.
yeah, so there's an attuning at the vibrational level. So that can shift a lot. That can shift a lot. But so far, I personally have never seen a vibrational modality that just functions on its own without a psychological context, meaning our own awareness. We
Mhm.
still don't know what consciousness is, right? Like brain science, neuroscientists still can't. That is beyond measurable yet so
Yeah,
far. So that's the piece that has to also be brought into any trauma healing journey. You can do the physical vibration work, but then how do you create, a new view of what happened, right?
right.
Um, you can erase a memory, but that doesn't erase the neuro, patterns that have been written and the energy body patterns around coping mechanisms. Because when we're dealing with trauma, we have the traumatic memory, perhaps, and then you have the coping mechanisms that develop,
Yeah,
disassociating, fight, flight, or flee, right?
yeah.
You're working with both, and so you have to be able to work with both. And rewriting coping mechanisms usually is a process of vigilance and it's to some extent psychospiritual work. So that's kind of my start, and I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, no, no, that's actually I follow you on the distinctions you're making. I don't know the med beds and their
Yeah,
capacity. I have heard because some of the victims are, babies and
right.
3-year-olds, and so the impact of trauma on them is different. It's not that they remember and process like if it was a 12-year-old or something like that. So there is a race of memory.
Mhm.
But when you talk about like coping mechanisms, I don't know. Does that get addressed then? I would imagine. I mean, that so far the results seem to be, you know,
Mm.
good. I mean, it seems like these kids have refound a life.
Yeah,
But yeah, but I don't know. I'm very much believing in the context of healing.
yeah.
But maybe it's a bias based on age. Maybe.
Yeah, because our brain changes, those first 5 years are so different than the rest
Yeah,
of our life. Those first
yeah,
5 years are everything. So that's very interesting to me that that's where it's being used. Yeah, and that's very interesting. Yeah, and I think from a holistic perspective, you're always working every level. Like that's my approach. You're working it physically,
yeah,
you're working it energetically, you're working it psychologically, spiritually. That's what holistic means. But under that age, you don't have a fully formed psyche or body. So it's
no,
a different modality, maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And that's why I was thinking maybe it actually doesn't answer
Mhm.
in a way that, because it is different, when you help people. I mean, I use different modalities, or used, because I'm not in practice anymore. um but I use different modalities: physical and energetic, spiritual, etc. But it is very different when you can't bring the memory back,
That's right.
right? And so, and it's happened because after a while there's enough signs that cognitively you say, okay, it must have happened, but it's very hard to remember, whereas, like I said, an older child who
Mhm.
gets molested will remember vividly, usually, even if it has been temporarily suppressed, it will come back,
Yeah.
so yeah, it may give an answer to that, and I wonder too, with the soldiers who have rescued these children, to
Yeah, because they're older.
they're
Yeah.
older, so they are traumatized by what they've seen. It's
Mhm.
also the organ harvesting, which is done while they're alive, right? Like, you can't harvest an organ when a person's dead.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's just unbelievable that this kind of stuff is actually happening in our world. But I guess we're discovering that this is true. And yeah, to think of what's available, you know, to help these people to, I mean, they're truly victims of,
Mhm. To
you
move.
know, of this, yeah, to move forward, you know, so,
Yeah. No,
mm,
memory is such an interesting thing, and the nervous system, because I
yes,
think also how many people experience trauma of all types is maybe they have the memory, maybe they don't. We think of like the kind of movie version of PTSD, which is
yeah,
like you're having flashbacks, right?
right, yeah,
That's really a small percentage of people.
yeah,
Most people, it's just they live in a constant state of anxiety or depression. They don't ever feel safe, ever, no matter what, right? And their nervous system is in this constant state of hyper alert. And so you're
mhm,
trying to rewrite the whole body and nervous system.
mhm,
So just removing the memory doesn't rewrite the nervous system, but maybe these vibrational methods also help do that. That to
mhm,
me is what the chakra system does. Like in ancient India and other areas where chakras were studied, it was always taught, even thousands of years ago, to intersect with our glandular system, our endocrine system,
right, mhm,
and our nervous system, right? And so
yeah.
these two are really everything.
Yeah. Well, I think I've seen that in, because I teach with Bowen College, Bowen therapy. It's spelled
Yeah.
Bowen, just in case people
That, yeah.
think it's that
There's not
airplane.
one in Maine, yeah, or the plane, right?
Yeah, it's not that well known. But it definitely, you know, rewires the nervous system.
Mhm.
And it takes people out of fight and flight for sure. And it does seem to not tranquilize, it's the wrong word, but make tranquil the entire revved up, you know, nervous system so that, you know, one can heal. And that part does not need discussion,
Right,
right?
exactly.
That just happens through touch,
Mhm,
right? So then, you know, how far is touch from, let's say, you know, in the olden days, they used to have bells that had, you know, that were healing bells. That's why, you know, kids would go on, lay underneath the church bells to receive frequencies
mhm,
when they were put at a certain frequency where that was possible. Um, you know, and I'm thinking, okay, that's not touch, but
mhm.
it impacts directly our nervous system. You can feel it, you know. So anyhow, so it's so tell us about chakras and
Well,
how
if it's okay, I'd
important.
love to talk a little bit about what you just said, because
What
I
would your life be like if you were pain free? If you were one of the millions who suffer from chronic pain, the thought of just one day without it may seem impossible. This is often because conventional medicine tends to fall short in the treatment of pain, opting to prescribe pills or recommend surgery rather than getting to the root cause of the problem. But if you are suffering with emotional or physical pain, there is hope. Join the founder and CEO of Bowen College, Manon Bolliger, live online for your body-mind reboot. Learn how to listen to your symptoms and get to the root cause of your pain. Plus, be trained in basic Bowen therapy moves so that you can reboot your body for optimal health. You don't have to live in pain. You can heal. Stop the pain pill cycle by visiting www.yourbodymindreboot.com to learn more and to register.
because I have
Okay,
thought.
go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, it's so interesting because I do love sound healing. I attend sound healing. I don't practice it so much, but similar idea, right? There's these frequencies, they're tied to clearing different chakras. There's different frequency systems for different kinds of healing. And yeah, you can just experience this profound, deep relaxation, which is physical and energetic. It's like it
Yeah,
starts out energetic and it goes into, and it creates a whole new default for you. And that's what you're talking about, right? Someone
exactly.
may never have experienced that.
Yeah,
Then what I'm curious, what happens, at least like in the way I work with people, is then the part that sometimes people need to be taught is then, okay, so now when I start to move out of that, how do I get back into it? I now have a reference point for what that feels like.
right.
That takes tools and practice. And so that's that second part. like, okay, I'm going to focus on my heart chakra. I'm going to take 3 breaths. I'm going to activate green light there. I'm going to magic going it back into my nervous system. Those kinds of tools help people. So it's interesting to me. There's kind of 2 steps. There's giving that new
I would agree.
experience,
Yeah.
right? And then there's the tool to help you get back to it on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, certainly I've been doing Bowen for, I guess, 35 years now. So it's a long time. And I don't think I appreciated
Yeah.
the need for the patient to, or the client to do something on their own outside of the visits
Yeah.
that reset them. Now, if it's a physical trauma or physical anything,
Yeah.
arthritis, whatever, pain, injury from a fall, you just need 3 to 5 treatments. So it's not a big deal. But when
Right.
it's trauma involved,
Mhm.
it's like you want to give a skill to reset on their own. Now, with enough treatments, the body will right itself. But I love the idea, as I've been observing healing for, all this time. I love the autonomy and the, taking charge of your health that
Yes.
I think is necessary nowadays, that people really say, okay, what can I do to help
Yeah.
myself, And I found that some of the breathing techniques it's like a shortcut into resetting what the physical therapy has set.
Yep.
Sometimes that's like enough to kind of go, oh,
Mm.
or sometimes like the focus of complete presence,
Yeah.
like like feeling the water as you're
Yes.
washing the dishes.
Elements are
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that type of thing. But so
Absolutely.
chakras, doing the work you're doing is also a way of reconnecting then to that feeling state.
Exactly. And everything you just said, that's why I called it chakra empowerment. For
Mm,
me, yes, I do distance healing, right? Yes, I
right.
can, try generate vibration. But what I want you to be able to do is access that for yourself because
Yes.
the chakras are actually our own inner technology to do that.
Mm,
That's truly empowering someone, right? Yeah, so that's really the focus of what I do is, what energies do you need more of? What's blocking your ability to access that? What's your default kind of energetic setup? And how can we help reprogram that? And then give you the tools where someone, is rude to you and you feel triggered, right? That you can in that moment and you start to go into a trauma response, you can work with it in that moment and not have your nervous system go into dysregulation, right? Be able
exactly.
to handle
Mm,
it. And that's really the focus of it. So, and I
mhm.
think it's interesting because then the chakras tie into the elements as well. Like the chakras, each one is associated with an element. So someone who needs more root, more chakra, it's like, can you spend some time with a tree? Can you go really out walking every day and really focus on your feet? And that is that mindful piece too, to coming to
Right, right.
presence, water. Can you take a bath? Can that's the second chakra. Like you can go through each of them and use the elements, washing the dishes, right?
Mhm.
Um, to really connect. And it's not
Yeah,
just physical, it's actually also energetic when you connect with an element.
yeah. And then it's conscious because you're also consciously doing this. So
Mhm.
you're reprogramming
Mhm.
in a sense by acknowledging the self-care part.
Mhm.
I mean, it may be unconscious what's happening, but but still having the I'm doing this, or I'm allowing receiving this. It doesn't have to be an action of doing. um but it kind of cements the self-care, which I think a lot of people resist
Yep.
for whatever reason. So
No,
yeah,
it's partially our culture. Sometimes it's feeling unworthy. I don't know. But
yeah,
yes, just allowing yourself, giving yourself permission is such a huge part of
yeah,
it.
yeah, this it is, yeah. So we don't have that much time together, but
Sure.
give us a kind of a case study, no names, nothing, all that, the usual, but just for people who they've heard about chakras, but they have no idea the power of using it the way that you're teaching.
Well, I think the most common thing I see, this will be kind of an amalgamation case study,
Sure.
right? With someone who's experienced sexual trauma, especially in childhood, is there some disassociation from the body and they don't even realize it. So what's so interesting is often I have a lot of people come to me who are very spiritually developed, meaning their third eye, their crown, their upper chakras are well developed, partially because in childhood they had to become so intuitive to try to stay safe, right? So this gets developed, but they are like literally off their root chakra. They're like lifted off of it. And so they have all these health problems and health modalities. They're always like, well, nothing ever works for me. It only lasts for a few weeks, right? So it's really like, I think of it like the root chakra, located at the, I work with the tailbone, is like where our subtle body and our physical body link in. And someone can develop this default where it feels safer to never quite be in your body, to just be slightly out of it. So then if something hurts your body, you don't feel it fully. That's what disassociation is, right? So then it doesn't feel comfortable to come back down in the root. And it's not always easy because at first it feels overwhelming that physically too much is happening or I can't handle it. But we do all this work on the lower chakras. And then what happens is all of a sudden physical healing modalities will start to work. Things that weren't taking. It was like the person wasn't fully present in the body, and then the body's natural healing capacity couldn't come forward. So that's really like one of the most common things that I'm working with is some level of disassociation in people who are very spiritual, but it isn't grounded. It isn't grounded.
Right. And an example of what the work actually is, like what is
Yeah.
it that when you
Yeah.
say you work with
Yeah.
the root
So
chakra?
I am working on helping them literally meditate on their root chakra. We have different visuals that we're working with. The earth sending up energy and creating a protective bowl, the earth infusing the body from the root chakra with a sense of protection. We might work with a ring of fire, like different visuals that actually activate the subtle body and boundaries. Imagining a second skin on top of your physical skin that is protecting you from other people's emotions or energy. But a lot of work is just getting someone down into being able to drop down fully into their body. And then depending on the person in between, again, I may be working with the earth element, really trying to help them get down into their feet and connected to earth. We may be working with increasing protein in the diet because protein is connected to the root chakra. So there's all these different ways of going about it, but it's mostly contemplative and repeating that over and over. Sometimes we're trying to rewrite memories from what happened the week before. Like, yeah, I know I got anxious and I just spaced out, right? We will rewrite that memory of, no, I went down, I stabilized, and this is how I handled it instead, because you're trying to create a new neural net for the future. So all of that is part of the work.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, very good. Well, I think you have just a few more minutes to share. If you have anything else, you have a book out, you have courses, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, I do
So
workshops. I work one-on-one and
people,
I do workshops. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
my website is Enlightened Energetics, so that's probably the easiest place to find everything. You can find my book and workshops and Instagram, anyone who is into any of that. Um, yeah, I also work with women's life phases, which sometimes dovetails with trauma. We have certain times in our life where if we haven't dealt with our trauma, it is likely to surface. Postpartum is one, perimenopause. So sometimes, especially with women, I'm working with those things as well.
Yeah. In your notes, you mentioned you work with men as well, but I think
I
there's a
do.
lot of women's issues that have been focused on by men, not women. So there's parts missing. So
Exactly. Especially perimenopause. We're finally figuring it out. It's been around forever, but perimenopause is having a moment right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay. Well, great. Well, it was really nice discussing just, yeah, trauma with you and healing methods and what it takes to heal. And so thanks very much for being available.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you. And for your work trying to help spread different modalities. Very appreciated.
Thank you for joining us at the Healers Café. If you haven't already done so, please like, comment, and subscribe with notifications on, as I post a new podcast every Wednesday with tons of useful information and tips for natural healing that you won't want to miss.